Starting on game turn 1, the 8 a.m. turn of our solo learning game of Saratoga. This is a British turn only. The first thing we do is we roll on the fog table. We roll a 2, which means that there's moderate fog. No units may use strategic movement, and no unit may conduct fire combat this turn. Here we are with the British in these 2 hexes. So we'll begin by moving Fraser, the Grenadiers, and the Jaegers. 4 movement points along this track. We're starting here. The track goes like this. Apologies for the mess. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll move the 5 strength artillery 1, 2, 3 just behind, along with this 5 strength light infantry and the Rangers. 1, 2, 3. You'll notice I'm sticking to this track even with the light infantry, which can move just as fast through the forest, but we're hoping to get clear weather conditions on turn 2 to be able to use strategic movement. A 50-50 chance. More artillery 1, 2. The 24th and the New York Loyalists make 6 SPs. And not thinking too hard about things, I'll just move this stack of 6 up 1 so we can stay on this track. Back here, a bunch of 4 strength units. I guess I could have taken this into account to maybe try to bring more of these further down the track, but I'm not too concerned about that at the moment. It's not too big a difference, I don't think. So we'll move Burgoyne 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just stop there. And maybe I do want to go all the way up here, I'm not sure. The 62nd. Oh wait, this artillery can move 1, 2, 3 and join these guys. 62nd, 1, 2. 20th, 1. These 2 cannot move along the track. Maybe I'll move them over this way and they'll start making their way down the river road, have a bit of a head start in that direction, maybe turn up the track over by the American Victory Hex at the destroyed bridge. Though they would not be able to be commanded by von Riedesel, who does not speak English. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. There's no strategic movement anyway. And I think that'll do. Entering turn 2, the 9 a.m. turn. Rolling for fog. And we get a 6, which is clear. Alright. And by the way, you'll notice I've placed blue bingo chips on the American garrison hexes. So the first thing I'll do is place our turn 2 British reinforcements on their hex of entry. It's von Riedesel, artillery, light infantry, and a few infantry units. Placing them at no cost. Then I'll go ahead and resolve movement for these units on the river road. Moving further down, using strategic movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Leader and 6 SPs. It's hard with the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Seven. 6 with the artillery. I'll leave this unit here for now. I'm considering moving them along this track here. Alright, so here we'll move Burgoyne along with the Grenadiers and the Jaegers. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eastbound along the track using strategic movement. Then we'll grab these 2 light infantry units Move them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Heading west along with Fraser. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The artillery will follow Burgoyne. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so will this stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These 1, 2, 3, 4 infantry units will go with Fraser. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, and then we'll send this unit down the river road after all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we enter turn 3, the 10 a.m. turn. On this turn, the Americans go first by default. So here's Burgoyne, and here's the Morgan Dearborn stack. And at this point, we can only move the units from Arnold's wing beyond the Bemis Heights line, which are those units in light blue. Gates's wing will have to wait until they're released, which may not happen for a few turns, though they can still move freely behind the line. And we're going first this turn, which means the British will get to move next. And on turn 4, we begin rolling for initiative. So there's a possibility that the British will get a back-to-back movement phase. So with that in mind, let me think about what we should do. I think we'll go ahead and move this stack. There's a benefit for keeping these two stacked together. First of all, that won't really have an effect quite yet. But during close combat, the Morgan rifle unit would be able to ignore any DRM penalties for being a rifle unit if it's stacked with Dearborn's unit of light infantry. And also during close combat, Morgan acts as a leader when determining which tactics to use. So I think we'll move, continue along this track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 2 more we can spend. We could split them up. We can move them into Freeman's Farm, or we can just stay here. And I think that's what we'll do, since we're pretty far ahead of the rest of the units from the wing. And we have Arnold stacked here with 1st and 2nd New Hampshire, along with American artillery, which I'll have a movement allowance of 0. So we'll take Arnold and the 2 infantry units and move them along the track as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have the 3rd New Hampshire just behind. And then we have these units, the 2nd and 4th New York. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slow Peck side. The Connecticut Militia. 1, 2, 3, 4, just behind. All these units start off the track. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we'll take the 2nd Massachusetts, 1, 2, 3, and bring the 1st Canadian, 1, 2, 3, 4 to stack. And the 8th Massachusetts, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll bring this 9th Massachusetts off this hill here. 1.5 plus 1 is 2.5, plus another 1.5 for 4. And then we'll shuffle Gates's wing around so that we make sure to place a non-artillery combat unit in each of these American garrison hexes. Alright, so we'll begin by moving these top 2 units along the track for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, dropping the 15th Massachusetts off, and 7 to stack here, Fort Nielsen, and Gates and the Connecticut Light Dragoons will move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to Bemis Tavern, and then I think I'll try moving this up 1, 2, 3, 4, just to take its place. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4, the 10th and 11th. One, 2, 1, 2, 3. One, 2, and then we'll stack here. 1, 2. So that ends the American half of the turn. So the British player receives the last of their reinforcements over at hex B. And we may now resolve British movement. Alright, so we'll begin by moving Burgoyne stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6 with the artillery. Let's go ahead and move these. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Now we'll move Fraser for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll move this stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Over by the river road, we'll move von Riedezel's column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stopping up the destroyed bridge. 6, 6. We will move the German reinforcements along the road as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7, and the 47th down this track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Entering turn 4, the 11 a.m. turn. For the first time now, we roll for initiative. Each player gets a +1 for having high morale. The Americans roll a modified 7, the British a modified 4, and the Americans will go first. Alright, so we'll begin by moving the Morgan Dearborn stack. 1, 2, 3. Although it may be a bit too soon for this, I'm not sure. At least we'll learn something. To engage Burgoyne and those with him here in the forest. Meanwhile, Arnold, along with the 1st and 2nd New Hampshire, will strat move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through Freeman's Farm, 7, stopping here in the crops just on the other side. And then we'll move the 3rd New Hampshire in the other direction, also strat moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To try to stall Fraser's advance down this track. And then we'll move the rest of Arnold's wing forward, starting here along the track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. 8. 8. 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. So that ends American movement. And since we won't be doing anything quite yet during the rally phase as the American player or during the defensive artillery fire phase as the British player, we'll go ahead and jump right into the rifle fire phase, during which both players may conduct simultaneous rifle fire, which means that not only will the Morgan rifle unit fire into Burgoyne's hex, targeting the British Grenadiers, but that the Jaegers that are there with them will also be firing, and they will target a unit in an adjacent hex, in this case Morgan's unit. So let's first take a look at the to-hit table on the player aid card for rifle and artillery fire, which looks like this. Starting with the American player, they're firing 3 SPs at an adjacent target as required for rifle fire for a base to hit of 4. And down below is a list of possible fire combat DRMs, which are cumulative. A -1 if the target is light infantry, which the Grenadiers are not. A -1 if the target occupies a forest hex. Yes, probably see that one a lot. A -1 when firing into fieldworks. No. +1 if the target is artillery or mounted dragoon. No. And finally, a +1 if the rifle unit is firing for the first time in the game. Yes. So we'll have to keep track of that throughout the playthrough, which in this scenario shouldn't be too hard. And that would negate the -1 for the forest, bringing us back to a to-hit of 4 for the American player. And that's on a D10, and any die roll results of 0 in this game are treated as 0 and never as 10. As for the British player, they're firing 1 SP for a base hit of 7, and Morgan's unit is a light infantry unit, so there's a -1 for that, making them slightly harder to hit. Another -1 since they're also in the forest, and finally a +1 since the Jaegers are also, of course, firing for the first time. In addition, there's an advanced rule for the German Jaeger rifles that I think I'm going to go ahead and use, since they have just 1 SP and it's a short little rule. And there's an interesting design note attached to it that's actually longer than the rule itself. But anyway, the rule states that the German Jaegers may make 2 die rolls against their to-hit number if they are not in a clear crops hex. Check. And there is an open flank as defined in the turn flank requirements. So in this case, basically just means an empty hex adjacent to both players' units. Both die rolls must be against the same target, and only 1 hit will result in a damage die roll if both die rolls hit, suggesting you can roll them both at the same time. Ignore the second hit. So I'll roll a blue die for the American player and a red, as well as this off-white ivory die for the British player as their second roll. So the Americans score a hit with the 6. They needed a 4 or more. The 3 becomes a 2, which is a miss. The 5 becomes a 4, which is also a miss, less than the 7 needed for the British to score a hit. So now the American player will roll once again, this time on the rifle fire damage table, which looks like this, on this column here for non-artillery target. And I'm seeing that if they roll a 9, not only will the Grenadiers suffer a step loss, but there's also an asterisk there for leader casualty, which would be really bad for the British player since Burgoyne is in the hex, and now I'm kind of regretting moving him that far forward this early in the game. But chances are slim, and we're most likely to see a -1 to British Army morale. Oh, pretty high. A 7 is a D for disruption. So, let's take a look at that in detail here, just for the beginning. Unlike in close combat, in fire combat, other friendly combat units in the hex are never affected, but leaders may be. In the case of a disruption result, the owning player retreats the affected unit 3 hexes and places a disruption marker on the unit. Leaders are never disrupted. If stacked with units which retreat or suffer disruption, the leader may either retreat with them or remain in place. And if possible, a unit must retreat into a hex which is not adjacent to an enemy unit. In addition, a unit must retreat towards a friendly map edge if possible. I looked this up. It has to be, in this case, it would be straight back, due north, if possible. So, units may not retreat into an enemy-occupied hex, into an enemy zone of control, even if friendly units already occupy the hex, into prohibited terrain, off the map, or in violation of stacking limits. And since I'm reading off all these rules, let me just go ahead and cover disrupted units. They may only move one hex per turn and may not move adjacent to an enemy unit. If a disrupted unit begins a movement phase adjacent to an enemy unit, it must use its one hex move to move away from as many enemy units as possible. They may not attack. Disrupted artillery and rifle units may not fire. They defend with only half of their SPs rounded up. They have no zone of control. If they receive an additional D result, they're shattered. If they receive a pin result, they're captured. And they suffer an additional D result if they end their own combat phase adjacent to enemy units and are not stacked with friendly parade order units. This results in the unit becoming shattered. So we'll go ahead and retreat just the Grenadiers. 1, 2, 3 towards the northern map edge. Mark them as disrupted. And Burgoyne will stay here with the Jaegers to try to help them out here in the upcoming phase. So now let's take a look at the Army morale adjustment chart here. If a side suffers a D result, they also lose an Army morale. So that drops British Army morale down to 13. And that ends the rifle fire phase. And finally, we enter the close combat phase. So we first designate all attacks as the phasing player, just the one, with both units, even though rifle units are never required to attack. There are no pin markers on the board. The initial odds ratio is 6-1. However, odds of greater than 4-1 are resolved as 4-1, the rightmost column on the close combat table. There is no artillery capture, no lone defending artillery or cavalry withdrawal, which I'll cover if it happens. Now we determine lead units, starting with the attacking player. We'll go with Dearborn and his light infantry, which has, well, these two units have the same stats, so base unit morale of +2. And the defender's lead unit is the only combat unit in the hex, the Jaegers, with the base unit morale of +1. They're the first to absorb any combat results, except for captured. And now we determine DRMs. There are no column shifts with the rules as I'm playing them. I think there's the option when you incorporate more advanced stuff. So we only have cumulative close combat DRMs. So starting with positive DRMs, which benefit the attacker. Positive DRM equal to the adjusted unit morale of the attacker's lead unit, +2. Even though Morgan is a leader when choosing tactics chits, he has no close combat DRM, so nothing for that. A +1 if any defending unit is a rifle unit. And yes, the Jaegers are a rifle unit. So we're at +3, and that's all for positive DRMs that benefit the attacker. Now those in favor of the defender, which are negative. Negative DRM equal to the adjusted unit morale of the defender's lead unit, 1, so we're down to +2. A negative DRM equal to the close combat DRM of the defender's commanding leader, which is Burgoyne, and his close combat DRM is the lower left number, a 1, so we're down to +1. And a -1 if any attacking unit is a rifle unit. However, Morgan is stacked with Dearborn, so he gets to ignore that DRM penalty in close combat for being a rifle unit, and we're left with a close combat DRM of +1. Now we choose tactics chips. So I'll be using these solitaire variant tactics tables from C3 number 22 when determining what tactics chits to play for each player. And the instructions state that some of the tests will require the player to make a judgment call. Do what you would do if you were the player using those units in a 2-player game. So let's first determine what tables we're rolling on, starting with the attacker. So we're engaging with the leader, Morgan. The enemy has a leader, Burgoyne. Flank is possible. We've established this during the rifle fire phase. The situation is the same. Withdraw, plausible. The rules state that an all-infantry force may not choose the withdraw tactic in clear field or crops terrain if the attacking force contains any mounted units. Well, I may be taking the judgment call too far here, but I've decided that the attacker would try to avoid the possibility of an NC result. So skirmish, stand fast, withdraw, and refuse flank are off the table. Meanwhile, the defender will assume that the attacker will not choose withdraw. So we're going to focus on getting rid of these +2s. So we're taking off skirmish, stand fast, withdraw, and turn flank. So I've eliminated half of the options and created my own tables. So we're still rolling d8s, and I got a dark blue for the Americans. Attack an echelon, frontal assault. That gets us a 0. So we're rolling on the 4-1 with a +1 from the close combat DRMs. We roll a 6, which becomes a 7, a no effect / 1 step loss. So the Jaegers, which are a 1-step unit, are eliminated. That'll be 1 point for the Americans at the end of the game. How does this affect army morale? Inflict / suffer 1 result. The American army morale goes up by 1 to 15, and British army morale drops to 12. And that ends the close combat phase. The Americans will not be able to advance because the target hex has not been vacated. Burgoyne is still there, though he is alone. And that ends the American half of the turn, entering British movement. So the disrupted Grenadiers will begin by moving 1 hex through the forest, stopping here, and are joined by Burgoyne. 1, 2, 3. The stack will attempt to rally in the next phase. The unit's base morale is +2. Burgoyne's leadership DRM is 2. We're still at high morale, so as long as you roll higher than a 0, the unit will be back in parade order to begin threatening Morgan and Dearborn's left and rear in the next turn, along with the 24th, 1, 2.5, 4. New York Loyalists will move in this direction for 1.5, joined by the 21st, 1, 2, 3.5. Not quite engaging with either stack here. The 9th and 62nd will move, strat move the other direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, crossing this ford through the forest, and British artillery will strat move in that direction as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, stacking with the 62nd. We'll call some Germans over to help us. Von Riedesson has 6 SPs, will strat move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And German artillery will move to stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll bring some more Germans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next we'll move Fraser's wing. He's stacked here with 3 SPs and light infantry. And we're within range to be able to engage the 3rd New Hampshire 3-strength unit in close combat. Not very good odds, but we're going to go for it before other Americans show up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have another stack, 4 units, 2 of which are 1-strength light infantry units. I think I'll move 4 SPs and infantry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the track, and then these 2 light infantry SPs, 1, 2, 3, 4 through the forest, and the 20th and this artillery unit will strat move along the track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next we'll move the 47th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the rest of these German units. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that ends the British movement phase. Now we enter the rally phase. We can make a morale check for each friendly disrupted or shattered unit that is not adjacent to an enemy combat unit. A modified die roll equal to or greater than 5 rallies the unit. Shattered units that rally become disrupted. Disrupted units that rally become parade orders. So we add to our die roll the modified morale of the unit, which is +2, and the leadership DRM, another 2. So as long as we don't roll a 0 on a d10, we should be good. So let's see what we got. A 2. So we have successfully rallied the disrupted Grenadiers back to parade order. Let's take a look at the morale adjustment chart. Rally +1. So British Army morale goes back up to 13. So that ends the rally phase, and nothing will happen during the defensive artillery fire or rifle fire phases. So let's go ahead and resolve close combat. We're designating one attack down here with an initial odds ratio of 2-1. The Rangers will be the attacker's lead unit. So we get a +1 for the Rangers' adjusted morale, another +1 for Fraser's close combat DRM, a -1 for the 3rd New Hampshire's adjusted morale, and that leaves us at +1. Now we choose tactics chits. We're engaging with a leader. Enemy has no leader. Flank possible. Withdraw plausible. I think we're going to go ahead and choose this. And then the defenders engaging without a leader. Withdraw plausible. We're going to choose this. So we're going to go with frontal assault, attack and echelon. That brings us to a 0. So we're on the 2-1 with a +1. Let's see how we do. And we get, wow, a 9 becomes a 10. On the 2-1 is a no effect /1 with an asterisk while the defender has no leader in that hex, so just a step loss. So we flip the unit, and the British morale goes up to 14, American morale down to 14. And let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. It remains in the hex. All right, so that ends the close combat phase, and that ends turn 4. Entering turn 5, the noon turn. Rolling for initiative first. Both players get a +1 DRM. The British roll a 6, the Americans a 5. It's close, but the British win the initiative. Let's resolve British movement. All right, so I think we're just going to go for it and see what happens, taking advantage of the fact that we have this nice back-to-back turn as the British, well-timed before the rest of Arnold's wing, the majority of his wing, arrives. They're still making their way up the track from Bemis Heights and are now just a few hexes away. Things would be very different had the Americans won the initiative as they wanted, but it didn't work out that way. The Americans made some bold moves here in an effort to defend the Freeman's Farm objective area. Questionable since it's only worth 1 victory point, and it leaves them now in danger of being surrounded. But things might still be okay. Those are tough stacks. And, you know, the Morgan Dearborn stack is in a slightly more favorable position, since the 24th won't be able to quite reach this hex to cut off its retreat path. They won't have to suffer the defender surrounded DRM because of the forest terrain there, and it'll cost the British +1 to enter and exit this hex, which is in the rifle unit zone of control. And Arnold's stack here is in more danger, but he offers a +2 close combat DRM and a +2 leadership DRM for any morale check if need be for other surviving friendly combat units at least. But there is danger there of a unit being captured. So, and then down here we have a reduced infantry unit that's in danger, the 3rd New Hampshire. But it's doing its job, slowing down Fraser's advance. So let's go ahead and just play this out here. The 24th will move 1.5, 3. We'll move leaders later. The Grenadiers, 1.5, 3. And this stack of 6 SPs, 1.5, 3, 4. Fighting 9th, 1.5, 62nd, and British artillery, 1, 2 down the track. This German stack, 6 SPs and artillery, 1, 2, 3 for the rifle zone of control. German infantry, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll stack Burgoyne, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here with the Germans. And von Riedesel is much more limited. He can only command and rally all German stacks. So there's no defender surrounded on this anyway. So we won't necessarily need to bring light infantry here in case the 24th doesn't survive Morgan's rifle fire. Let me go ahead and move the units down here. Move the leader later. So 6 SPs light infantry, 1, 2, 3. German Grenadiers, Canadians, 1, 2.5, 4. We'll stack Fraser there, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Down the track. Up here, let's see, we'll move this guy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll have von Riedesel stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's no rallying or defensive artillery fire. Let's resolve rifle fire. So Morgan's rifles will fire at the 24th. So to hit a 4 with a -1 for the forest. We roll a 7, which is a hit. Rolling on the rifle fire damage table. We roll a 2, which is a -1 to the British Army morale, dropping down to a 13. Now we resolve close combat, and we'll designate 1, 2, 3 attacks, and also designate attacking units. So these 3 hexes here, here we will, let's see, 615. Yeah, we'll just go with these 3 hexes here, and then these 4 hexes here. So let's resolve this first. We're looking at 15 to 6, 2 to 1. The lead units will be the Grenadiers and Dearborn. So +2 for the Grenadiers. The defender is not surrounded. Any defending unit is a rifle unit, but Morgan is stacked with Dearborn. And then -2 for Dearborn's morale. All right, so we're on the 2 to 1, choosing tactics chits. Let's see, engaging without leader. That's a roll on table 2. Skirmish, stand fast, or attack. I'm just going to choose attack and echelon because I want to go through with this attack. Engaging with leader, enemy has no leader flank possible, withdraw. No. So I'm going to roll on 6. And we roll a 4. Okay, same thing. Attack and echelon. So that means that it's a 0. And it's a straight roll on the 2 to 1. We get a 1 on the 2 to 1. Wow. D/no effect. Attacker disrupted. Man. So basically the Grenadiers retreat 3 hexes, are marked as disrupted, and British morale drops to 12. We now make morale checks for all the other units. We'll start up here, 1, 2, top, bottom. So, von Retz, fail, retreat a hex. Ottawa, pass, remain in place. 24th, fail, retreat a hex. Chasseurs, pass, remain in place. So we'll move on to the next, which will hopefully be a little better for the British here. We're attacking with 6, 10, 14, plus another 6, 20. Our lead unit will be, let's see, the Fighting 9th. They're defending here with 6, 3 to 1, and a 6. So we got a +1 for the Fighting 9th, another +1 for Burgoyne, and a +1 since the defender's surrounded. -1 for the 1st New Hampshire, the defender's lead unit, and Arnold's close combat DRM is 2, so we're down to 0, 3 to 1, 0. Tactics chits, we're gonna go with, let's see, engaging with leader, enemy has leader, flank possible. I'm going to choose options without NCs for the attacker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3 frontal assault. And the defending tactical chit will be rolling on the 9. Roll a 1, withdraw. And that is a +2, so 3 to 1, +2. But we roll a 0, which becomes a 2. And that's an R/no effect. Wow. So Fighting 9th does an R, and morale checks all around. for the non-artillery combat units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, top, bottom. 4 plus 1 plus 2, that's a pass for von Riedesel, and another pass for the Germans. They remain here. 62nd is at a +1. Oh, and they stay with the artillery, which is good. And then finally this hex, top, bottom. A 0, so that's a fail. And here's their R. New York Loyalists. 6 minus 1. They actually managed to pass. And the stack remains where it is. And we're moving on to this down here. So let's see. All non-rifle, non-artillery units must engage. So it's 4 to 1 where it maxes out. Lead unit, German Grenadiers at +2. Another +1 for Fraser. And defenders not surrounded. Defenders unit morale 0. We're both still at high morale. So it's 4 to 1 +3. Choosing tactics. Schütz engaging with leader. Enemy has no leader. Flank. Possible withdraw. We're going to go with attack in echelon. Attack in echelon. And the defending player will go with, let's see, rolling on table 1. A 6 is attack in echelon. All right, so that is a 0. And I know I don't have to use the chits, but they're kind of fun. However, I've misplaced the other attack in echelon. So where were we? 4 to 1 +3. Oh wow, that's a 9. 4 to 1 +3, that becomes an 11 where it maxes out. No effect /2. So this unit is eliminated. And that's a +1 -2 to morale. So British morale up to 13, American morale down to 12. We must advance at least the lead unit into the now vacated hex, and then other units that engaged in close combat up to the stacking limit. We'll just move this whole stack onto the track here. And that'll end the British half of turn 5. All right, for American movement, we'll begin by moving Arnold and his stack over for 1 from Ezok to Ezok. The Morgan Dearborn stack will move 1, 2, 3 through the forest to try to deal with this stack. We're concerned about the 5 strength light infantry over here. We'll bring this 4 SPs 1, 2, 3. And these 6, 1, 2.5. These 6, 1.5, 2.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So no rallying, but there will be defensive artillery fire with this 1 German artillery SP, which will target the 1st New Hampshire. So 1 artillery SP firing at an adjacent target for a to hit of 7. No modifiers. 7 through 9. The roll is 6. Close, but not high enough. Now we resolve rifle fire, Morgan's rifles, at the 5 strength light infantry in the woods. 3 SPs to hit of 4 minus 2 DRM. And we roll a 0. Also a miss. What about close combat? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start up here. We're attacking with 6. They're defending with 2. The 1st Canadian will be the attacker's lead, +1. And another +1 because all defending units are militia, attacked by at least 1 non-militia unit. And another +1 because the defending unit has a -1 unit morale. So we're at 3 to 1 with the +3. Tactics chits. No leader. So let's see. No leader. A roll for the defender's chit. Okay. Attack in echelon. Stand fast. It's a +1. So 3 to 1 +4. And we get a 0, which becomes a 4, an R/R result. Pretty lucky there. R. Wow. Okay, so what about this? We are attacking with 6 SPs. They're defending with 6 non-artillery SPs. We have both Arnold and Burgoyne involved. +1 for the attacker's lead, 1st New Hampshire, another +2 for Arnold's close combat DRM, -1 for the defender's lead, we'll choose a 1 strength, and another -1 for Burgoyne's close combat DRM. 1 to 1 with a +1. Engaging with. Okay, so we'll choose either attack in echelon, frontal assault, or commit reserve. Attack in echelon for the attacker, and the defending side we'll just roll on we'll roll on table 2. A 6, and that's an attack in echelon. So 1 to 1, and that's a +1, since attack in echelon to attack in echelon is a 0. The roll is a 4, which becomes a 5. On the 1 to 1 is pin. So these units remain where they are. It has no effect on army morale, and we'll deal with the pin markers on the next player turn. They have no effect this turn quite yet. So we'll just work our way down. And that's a 4 to 1. Second York will be the attacker's lead. No modifiers. Straight roll on the 4 to 1, but we first need to choose tactics chits. We'll just roll, let's see, rolling for the defender on the 1. It's a 6. Okay. So that becomes an attack in echelon versus attack in echelon. So straight roll on the 4-1. And if I can find, yeah, it becomes, let's see, a 6, which is a no effect /D. So 1, 2, 3. This unit is disrupted. British morale goes down to 12. We'll advance with the lead unit. And finally, this down here, we're attacking with 12, they're defending with 6, that's 2-1. Dearborn and the Rangers will be lead, +2. And -1. Morgan and Dearborn are stacked together, so we can ignore the -1 for any attacking unit. Is a rifle unit, 2-1 with a +1. Let's select our tactics chits. We're looking at no leader, so we'll go with this, and we'll roll a 4, attack in echelon, stand fast, which becomes a +1, so we're on the 2-1 with a +2 now. And we get a 9, which becomes an 11. On the 2-1 is captured attacker's choice. Wow. All right, so we're definitely going to choose the Earl of Balcarres. They go to the captured units box. That's a +1, -1. British morale drops to 11. American morale goes up to 13. And the other friendly unit will conduct a morale check. So they are at +1 and roll a 0 and fail. And because of that, they must retreat. And will advance entering turn 6, the 1 p.m. turn, rolling for initiative. Both players are still at high morale. And it's a tie, so we'll re-roll. And the Americans get the initiative this time. So the first thing to consider is that there are units that are pinned, which means that as the phasing player, we must either attack with all units marked as pinned and attack all defending units marked as pinned during this player turn. Additional units may stack and or attack with pinned units, or move all friendly pinned units so that they're not adjacent to any enemy units, and do not move any other friendly units adjacent to the enemy pinned units, and reduce army morale by 1. Pin markers are removed from all friendly and enemy units either at the end of movement phase with an army morale penalty, 1 for each individual pin result removed in this way, or after all close combats are assigned, and it is incorporated as part of the close combat procedure. And I think we're going to go with the first option. So let's resolve movement. All right, so let's see. We'll begin by moving the 4th New York 1, 2, 3. We'll bring Morgan and Dearborn 1, 2, 3, 4. 8th Massachusetts 1.5, or 1, 2.5. 2nd Massachusetts 1, 1st Canadian 1, 2. And Cook's Militia 3. 9th Massachusetts 1, 2. Lattimore's Militia 1.5. So there's no rallying, but there is defensive artillery fire. So the 5-strength British artillery unit here can see into these 2 hexes from 2 hexes away, and the 1-strength German artillery unit here can see into these 3. So we can combine the 2 for 6 SPs, but we'll have to use the longer range. So for example, if we want to combine them against a unit in this hex, it would be a 6 to hit. If the 5 fires by itself, it's a 7 to hit. And if the 1 fires by itself at an adjacent target, it's a 7 to hit as well. But for a target in this hex, it's a -1 for light infantry, -1 for the force. So I think what we'll do is fire separately. The 5 strength will target the 1st New Hampshire, 1 strength 2nd New Hampshire, I guess. So rolling for the 5 strength, 7 to hit, no modifiers. And that's a 2. Second roll, a 6, so that's less than the 7 needed to hit. Now rifle fire. Morgan's unit will target the 5 strength German infantry, 4 to hit, and no modifiers. 7, rolling on the rifle fire damage table, non-artillery. A 6, R. So we retreat the unit a hex and now resolve close combat. So I'll first designate all attacks. 1 here, 1 here. Our plans have changed over here now that von Riedezel's infantry has retreated. We were going to attack both of these defending units from here. Remember, in close combats you can only ever have either 1 hex with attacking units or 1 hex with defending units. But I think instead we'll have this stack attack here, this stack attack here, and this stack attack here. We'll have this unit attack here, and these 2 attack Fraser's stack. So now that we've designated all attacks and attacking units, we may remove pin markers at no penalty. And let's see, we will resolve this 1-to-1 attack first. So there's a +1 for the attacker's lead and a -1 for the defender's lead, 1-to-1, and we'll choose tactics chits. So we're engaging without a leader, and I'll go ahead and just roll on the 2 as the attacker and 1 as the defender. So we're attacking an echelon as the attacker and choosing withdraw as the defender, which gets us attack an echelon, a +1. So we're on the 1-to-1 with a +1. And we get a 9, which becomes a 10, and that is a no effect /1 step loss. So this unit gets flipped, and that's a +1 -1 to morale. Next, we'll go ahead and do this. And we're on the 2-to-1. The first Canadian will be the attacker's lead unit +1. Another +1 since all defending units are militia, attacked by at least one non-militia unit. And the defending unit's adjusted morale is actually -2 because British Army morale after that last step loss was dropped to 10, so the army is fatigued. Meanwhile, American morale is at high. So it becomes a -2, which benefits the attackers, who are at 2-to-1 at a +4 now. And we're choosing our tactics chits, no leaders. And let's see, we'll go with that and roll on the 1, and we'll choose that. So the Americans attack an echelon, and the British militia skirmish. Attack an echelon, skirmish a -1. So that becomes a +3 on the 2-to-1, and we get A2, which becomes a 5. It's a no effect /R. We must advance at least our lead. We'll go ahead and resolve this. So here we're attacking with 6 SPs, they're defending with 1 non-artillery SP for the 4-to-1 table, the rightmost table. And the first New Hampshire will be the attacker's lead, +1 for that, another +2 for Arnold's close combat DRM. And the defender's lead unit's base unit morale is 1, which becomes a 0 now. And then -1 for Burgoyne's close combat DRM, so we're at +2 on the 4-to-1. Now we determine tactics chits. We have our choice here. We'll go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7, 8, turn flank as the Americans, and we'll go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, attack an echelon as the British player. So turn flank, attack an echelon, +1. So that becomes a +3 on the 4-to-1. We roll an 8. It maxes out here, the 4-to-1. No effect /2. So the rules state that if the affected unit was only a 1-step unit, a second unit must take a 1-step loss. It doesn't say non-artillery combat unit there, even though artillery SPs never count for close combat. So we'll apply the first step loss to this unit and the second to this, placing them in the eliminated units box. There is no asterisk on the results, so Burgoyne survives, and that is a +1 -2 to morale, dropping British morale to 8. American morale is now maxed out at 15. Next, we'll resolve this here. We are attacking with 6 SPs, they're defending with 1. We're on the 4-to-1. And our lead unit is Dearborn, +2. And let's see. This is not a militia unit, it's an auxiliary with a -2 base unit morale, which becomes -3, so we're up to +5. And Morgan is stacked with Dearborn. So we're on the 4-1 with +5. Tactics chits. We'll roll on the 1 for the defender. And we're going to choose, we'll roll the d8 for the attacker. Anything but a no combat result. So the defender will choose withdraw, and the attacker 5 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, commit reserve. So that is a 0. So we're on the 4-1 with the +5. A 1 becomes a 6. No effect /D. This unit survives. And we'll go 1, 2, 3. Becomes disrupted. And that drops British morale again. They're now at 7. Wow. We must advance at least our lead. And we'll go ahead and advance the whole stack, see what happens. Moving on to this here. We are attacking with 5, they're defending with 4, that's on the 1-1. Our lead unit will be the 2nd New York as the attacker, +1, and then the defender's adjusted unit morale is 0. So we're on the 1-1 with a +1, and we're choosing tactics chits. 1-1 with a +1. I'll roll on the table 1 of the Solitaire variant tactics tables as the defender, and table 2 as the attacker. So we're going to choose stand fast as the attacker and skirmish as the defender, which is a stand fast skirmish, another +1. So we're on the 1-1 with a +2 now. And we get an 8, which becomes a 10, no effect /1 step loss. So we'll flip this unit. Things are looking pretty bad here for the British player, I must say. +1, -1 morale, they're down to 6. And American morale stays at 15. Moving on to the next attack here, let's see. So here we are on the 3-1. The attacking lead unit's adjusted morale is -1. The defending unit's adjusted morale is 0. And all attacking units are militia, attacking at least one non-militia for a -1. So that's actually a net -2 on the 3-1. Choosing tactics chits without leaders. We'll roll on the 1 as the defender, 2 as the attacker. So we're choosing attack in echelon and withdraw. Attack in echelon, withdraw, +1. So it's the 3-1 with a -1 DRM. So that becomes a 3, which is a pin result. And finally, this here, we're attacking with 6 SPs They're defending here with 4. The lead units will be the German Grenadiers, 9th Massachusetts. So +1 for the attackers' lead morale, and the defending lead unit's adjusted morale is 1. So we're down to 0, and now -1 because of Fraser's close combat DRM. So 1-1 -1. Tactics chits will roll on the 1 as the attacker, and engaging with has the 5. So 8 and 1, skirmish, withdraw. And that gets us skirmish, no combat. And that ends the initiative player turn. Okay, so let's see. I'll begin by moving this disrupted unit 1 hex, and this will stack here. And then Burgoyne will join. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then here, I think, reluctantly, we're gonna remove the pin marker during the movement phase for a -1 army morale. So we're now at 5. And that means we can move this unit, and we'll move it here. We'll move the 20th 1.5, 3 to stack. The artillery 1, 3, and the stack back for 1.5. We'll move the 24th 1.5, 3, von Retz 1.5, 21st 1.5, 1, 2, one, 2, 3, and finally we will remove this pin marker. Just to backtrack here a bit, it states that pin markers are removed from all friendly and enemy units at the end of the movement phase for an army morale penalty. 1 army morale point is spent for each individual pin result that is removed in this way. So we dropped 1 when removing the pin marker on our friendly unit. We must lose another when removing the pin marker from the enemy unit. At least that's my interpretation, although it's a little confusing when you couple that with the rules on the army morale penalty, which state that the phasing player must reduce his army morale by 1 if any pinned markers are removed. But I'm gonna go with 2 morale loss total for moving both pin markers, and now the British Army is wavering. It's a -2 to unit morale, -1 to initiative die rolls going forward as we enter the rally phase. So let's see what we have here with Burgoyne. 2 disrupted units. The British Grenadiers have a +2 base unit morale, which is now 0. Burgoyne's leadership die roll modifier is 2. So 3 through 9. And we roll a 1 and fail. The other unit there's got a +1, which becomes a -1, +2 for Burgoyne. We're up to a +1. So 4 through 9. And we roll a 6 and succeed. So, at least there's that. And British Army morale is back up 1 to 5 or fatigued. Unit morale -1, initiative +0 as we resolve our final rally attempt. They're at -2 base, -3 adjusted. So we're going to need to roll an 8 or 9. And that's a 2. So no luck there. No defensive artillery fire or rifle fire, so let's resolve close combat. We're designating 1 attack here. So we're attacking with 12 non-artillery SPs. They're defending with 2. We're on the 4-1, the rightmost column. And our lead unit will be the fighting 9th. So the adjusted morale would be 0 for the attacker. And the defender's at 1, so it's a -1 die roll modifier. For combat chits, for tactics chits, we're going to use, let's see, table 6. No, we're just going to use this. And then table 1 for the defender. And that is an 8, so they're skirmish. Attack and echelon for the attacker. And skirmish for the defender. Attack and echelon skirmish is a -1. So 4-1 -2. We roll a 5, which becomes a 3, and that is an R/R. R/R. Here's, oh, well, this first. R. Morale checks. 21st, they're at -1 adjusted, and they pass. New York Loyalists, -2 adjusted, fail. 62nd, 0 adjusted, fail. All right, so that ends the British player turn, and that ends turn 6. Entering turn 7, the 2 p.m. turn, rolling for initiative. The Americans get a +1, and we'll get to go first. All right, so let's get started here. 1.5, 3 + 1, 4. 1.5. 1, 2, 1, 1, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 1.5, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1. So no rallying, defensive artillery fire here. So they are firing 5 artillery SPs at an adjacent target for a base to hit of 4 and no modifiers. Okay, that's a 1 and a miss. So rifle fire. Over here, let's see if we don't engage in rifle fire. What are we looking at? 3-1 +2 +1 +3. right, so that's that, and then rifle fire would be a 4 to hit, no modifier. Comparing the close combat CRT to the rifle fire damage table, it's 4 through 6. There are no modifiers on the rifle fire damage table, but there are on the close combat table. Maybe I'm just gonna skip the rifle fire phase and see how that works out. So close combat, and we have 1, 2, 3, starting here. We're attacking with 8, they're defending with 2, 4 to 1. Our lead will be the 1st Canadian, +1, their adjusted is -1, so we're +2 on the 4 to 1. +2 on the 4 to 1. Tactics chits, no leaders, +2 on the 4 to 1. We're gonna go with this as usual, and they're gonna go engage without a leader. Rolling a d8 on table 1 is stand fast. You really want to do that? So that becomes another +1. 4 to 1 +3. Yeah, that's a 10. Captured. Which for a 2-step unit is not as good as eliminated. Attacker's choice, but there's just one. So 2nd captured unit will advance with this stack and adjust army morale. Captured +1 -1. So British Army morale is now at 4. They're wavering. It's a -1 on initiative, -2 unit morale. American Army morale is still maxed out at 15. Now this unit is automatically captured. Ouch. I am pretty bad as the British player. So let me see what happens here. Artillery units. If the only defending units are artillery, they are captured. Place all the defending artillery units in the captured box and skip to step 9. Okay, skip to step 9, that's what I was wondering. So we must, I guess, advance with at least our lead. Let's go with both. And now this. Did I adjust unit morale? That was the 2nd captured unit. +1 -1. British Army morale is down to 3. This might end sooner than I thought it would. Yeah, so this is 6 to 2, 3 to 1. Dearborn +2. Adjusted -2, so we're +4. 3 to 1. Tactics chits. With leader, avoiding the NC. 1, 2, 3, 4. Commit reserve for the attacker, and rolling on the 1. Stand fast. Commit reserve. Stand fast. -1, so that actually worked out for the British, kind of. So we're at +2 on the 3 to 1, I believe. And the roll is actually low, so we're at 3 pin. Maybe we should have gone for the rifle fire instead. Oh well. So that's that. And that ends the American player turn. Entering British movement. Alright, so let's see. I don't want to remove the pin markers after the movement phase because we're down at 3 on the Army morale track as the British player. So let's just go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1. 1. 1.5. 1.5. 3. 1.5 or 1. 2.5. 1.5. And this from the American Victory Axe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Observing stacking limits. 2.5. 2.5. 2. 1, 3. 1.5 and 1.5. Alright, so the rally phase. We have Burgoyne stacked here with 2 disrupted units, the Grenadiers and the Ottawa Indians. So, starting with the Grenadiers. 0 adjusted morale. The British Army is wavering. And a +2 for Burgoyne's leadership DRM. 3 through 9. And we roll a 2. Next, -4 + 2 is a -2, 7 through 9. And we roll an 8. So that boosts British Army morale up to 4, though they're still wavering. And that ends the rally phase. No defensive artillery fire. And rifle fire, yes. Morgan's unit will fire at the 5 strength German infantry. A 4 to hit with a -1 for the forest. And it's a 0, a miss. Close combat, just this one. So where are we? (14 to 6, 2 to 1). Leads will be Chasseur Dearborn. Adjusted attacker lead unit morale -1. Another -2 for Dearborn. Any other modifiers? No. So that's a -3 on the 2 to 1. Tactics chits, attackers without leader, and we'll go with attack in echelon. The defender is with leader. We'll go with skirmish, which is gonna be -1. So we're at -4 on the 2 to 1. We roll a 6, which is a 2 on the 2 to 1 R/no effect. At least we can remove the pin markers, which I should have done before resolving the attack without an army morale penalty. So 1 morale checks. We're at -3 adjusted. Oh, that unit passes. This is -1. This is a -2. That is a -1. That passes. The other on the bottom is a -1. And that passes. So that ends the British half of the turn. They're at 4 on the army morale track. Entering turn 8, the 3 p.m. turn, the turn in which we begin rolling for Gates's release. The British get a -1 DRM to their initiative die roll. But we'll still get to go first. All right, so let's see here. 3, 2, 1.5, 1.5, 1 hex, 1.5, 3. Entering the rally phase, we will attempt to rally the Grenadiers again. So they have an adjusted unit morale of 0. Burgoyne's leadership DRM is 2. We need to roll a 3 through 9. All right, so that's a fail. And rifle fire. Morgan's rifles will fire at the 5 strength German infantry for to hit -1 DRM, and that is a hit. Rolling on the rifle fire damage table, it's a 7 D. One, 2, 3, and we're now down to 3 as the British player on the army morale track. Close combat 1. And what do we have? 2 to 1. Dearborn and the chasseurs. So our adjusted unit morale is -1. Another -2 for Dearborn. On the 2 to 1, engaging without leader. Rolling on the 2. Stand fast as the attacker. Engaging with leader, enemy has no leader. Rolling on the 6. Attack an echelon. Stand fast. Attack an echelon, -1. All right, so we were at a -3, so -4, 2 to 1 -4. And that's a -1 2 to 1, -1, bad to worse. So the affected unit is eliminated. We have no leader with us, fortunately, because there is an asterisk on that. And morale checks. Rangers adjusted -1. That's a 3. 20th -1, another 3. Oh, yeah. So let me just make sure that I'm doing this right. One hex, yeah. 24th -2. Von Retz. Prince Ludwig. And adjusted morale. Oh, that's a fail. So, that is a +1 -1. British Army morale is down to 2. Rolling for Gates's release. And that's a no. We needed a 0 this turn. Entering American movement. We'll move this here for 3. This here for 2. One and a half. 4. 2. 1. 1. No rallying, no defensive artillery fire, rifle fire. Morgan. Firing at this 6 strength German infantry. To hit a 4, -1 DRM. That's a hit. Rifle fire damage. And that's a D. So let's see. So it'll have to go 1, 2, 3. And we'll mark it as disrupted. British Army morale is now at 1. Close combat. So we'll resolve this first. 4 to 1. 2nd New York +1. Arnold +2. Adjusted defender morale +3. We're on the +6 now. 4 to 1 +6. All right. So we are attacking with leader. Enemy has no leader. One, 2, 3, frontal assault. Defender without leader. Table 1. Skirmish. Frontal assault, skirmish +2. All right. 4 to 1 +2 +6. So we're at +8. So that maxes out at 11. No effect /2. I think that does it. This unit is eliminated. And it's a +1 -2. Yeah, so that drops British Army morale to a 0. And I believe the game immediately ends here on turn 8, the 3 p.m. turn. If an army's morale falls to 0, it's considered demoralized. The game ends immediately and the opposing player wins a substantial victory, a substantial American victory. Wow, that was pretty bad for the British player. Awful rolls in general, I think. But I need to rethink my strategy there. Fun game. Thanks for watching. Good night.